Hello future millionaire and welcome to our video. Countries have faced great moments of economic crisis in recent years. Market and economic recovery difficulties in the country affect several companies, and investors are not exempt from suffering their impacts. In a context of record high inflation and a higher than expected unemployment rate, it is not uncommon for investors to be concerned about the safety of their assets. Every investor seeks, with applications of his capital, to increase equity. Therefore, knowing how to react in crisis situations and how to prepare for them is essential. Only by making decisions capable of safeguarding your assets is it possible to protect yourself financially in crises. Understand here how it is possible to protect your capital and your present and future investments during economic crises. Leave your like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on amazing tips like this. How to protect yourself financially in crisis. Ensuring the safety of assets and investments depends on knowing measures to know how to protect yourself in crises. Only investors who know how to understand the economic context and adapt to the challenges it presents are capable of preventing negative impacts. There are different practical actions to reduce damage to investments made, but how to take care of your finances even before these moments show themselves. The first step is always to control the inflow and outflow of money. It is no longer news to say that financial education is essential for those who want to maintain their assets and make them grow. Without knowing where your monthly income comes from and where it goes, it is impossible to seek strategies to safely increase profitability, even in a favorable market. Once you have control of your income stream, find out what impacts a crisis can have on your work life. Your profession is your main source of income, whether you are a business owner, teacher, or lawyer. Understanding where your income comes from and how it can be harmed by a crisis is essential to avoid negative impacts. If the company you own or work for is at risk and losing market share, the chances of your fixed income being harmed are very high. In that case, investing in yourself and your business to be able to stay in the market is essential. Protecting your income is something that cannot be left for another day. Money stopped in a bank account does not yield, and you will always need an emergency reserve for unforeseen circumstances, such as losing clients or your job. Generating passive income is another way to protect your wealth. In times of high inflation, there are many investments that increase profitability. Therefore, they can help you maintain and recover from the negative impacts of the crisis. Emergency reserves and passive income are a way to achieve another essential objective in times of crisis, avoiding unforeseen circumstances. This reserve is the money you will have to survive without having to resort to the investment fund or other extra income when problems arise. If you don't already have one, do it now. What are the best investments during a crisis? Protecting yourself financially in crises, as we mentioned, is much simpler when you invest capital in applications with greater profitability. Before making the decision of which investment option to choose, it is important to know the best possibilities that the market offers. The best investments will be those capable of maintaining income above inflation, that is, those commanded by the Selic rate. See some options. Treasury Direct. With federal government guarantees, daily liquidity, and profitability above inflation, it is generally the safest alternative in times of crisis. However, it's only really worth it if you're able to meet the redemption deadline. Therefore, this is a viable alternative only for long-term investments or emergency reserves. CBD. It offers a guarantee from the FGC, Credit Guarantee Fund, and always has an income above inflation. The biggest advantage of this investment is that it is not impaired by early redemptions, serving short, medium, and long-term goals. LCI and LCA. They are the options with the most attractive liquidity and that offer exemption from income tax, which can be very beneficial for different investor profiles. The guarantees on these models are offered by the savings account. The only real concern with this investment at LCI is to verify the effects of the crisis on the real estate market and how it is reflected in the return on investment. The LCA is, in general, more recommended for short-term investments, not more than 2 years. What exactly is heritage protection? Asset protection is the set of measures that seek to avoid negative impacts, regardless of the situation that causes them. Crisis or not, there are many problems that can make you have to give up your family or business assets. It is important to say that this protection is not reactive, that is, it is not done when the problem arises. In fact, they are preventive measures that prevent you from being harmed when a crisis or legal and administrative situation that affects your assets arises. Main risks faced by unprotected assets. Understanding the real need to protect yourself financially in a crisis depends on knowing the real risks you run when you are not protected. Companies and investors need to know that many elements that never seem to be a risk can create very big problems for the performance and profitability of applications and businesses. See the main risks. Labor. Market instabilities, rising unemployment, and the updates being made by labor reform create many risks. Labor lawsuits have always been very present in the reality of companies, and the current instabilities increase the risks even more. Fiscal and tributary. Brazil has tax and tax laws that are very complex and difficult to comply with. They require attention and time, which is made even more difficult with the constant updates to legislation that are made. Thus, it is not as rare as it seems to receive punishments for failures or lack of information about specific legislation. Environmental. This is another legislative area that has gained increasing attention and, consequently, amendments. The constant concern with the environmental impacts caused by companies makes inspection more intense. And it also makes the number of procedures to be followed more bureaucratic and complex. Corporate. A society always starts with people who have the same goal, know each other, and have affinity. However, people change. Postures change, ideological alignment transforms, which, in a society, can result in dissolution and legal dispute for the patrimony. Familiar. Community property is a measure widely used in marriages and can cause serious problems for a company's equity when it involves the divorce of a partner or large shareholder. The same problem exists in the event of death, either in the distribution of assets or in the choice of successor. Thus, taking measures to protect assets ensures that, in crisis situations, reduce risks. Ensure that the company sustains itself during the crisis. Minimize expenses with fees, taxes, and taxes. Prevent full exposure of business and family assets. Create secure foundations for the long term. Eliminate risks that impede the progress of your investments. How to create asset protection against crises. There are several ways to protect your assets in different crisis situations. Choosing the best option, or more than one, depends on the type of assets you want to protect and what risks exist. One of the first options for companies is to carry out periodic audits, which guarantee an aligned and error-free tax and fiscal sector. Thus, your assets are protected from administrative and legal proceedings resulting from errors in the declaration of taxes or other fees. Bankruptcy and judicial recovery is another protective measure that can be adopted, since they make it possible to process in common justice to remedy debts. It's better than resorting to labor courts, which tend to be less flexible and more focused on protecting the worker and not the company. Creating succession planning is another very efficient preventive measure, especially for family businesses. In them, there is the possibility of legal disputes for the leadership position that compromise the company's assets. Union and marriage regimes avoid disputes over assets in cases of separation and redeemable life insurance, allowing you to recover the money paid in case of termination of the contract after a grace period. Asset protection and the investor. Although when talking about risks to assets, the cases apply more to companies than to investors, knowing the ways to protect themselves financially in a crisis is important, also for them. When an investor invests capital in a company's share or in an investment fund, his equity and the objective of increasing it are subject not only to market fluctuations and the profitability achieved. The impacts that a crisis can cause on companies affect the income that the company's investors will have. For this reason, in addition to choosing the best investment options, it is essential to be aware of risks and protective measures to verify that the company in which you intend to invest is protected. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Share this video with people who need this type of content. Don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our tips on how to get rich in 2023.